How could a celebration of love, set against the backdrop of paradise, end in unimaginable violence? What happened in that secluded villa on a honeymoon meant to mark the beginning of forever? It was a picture-perfect setting, the kind most people could only dream of. A private island resort nestled far away from the chaos of everyday life. For one newlywed couple, it was the ultimate escape. Their love story had captivated friends and family, and this honeymoon seemed like the culmination of a fairy tale. The two had just exchanged vows in an elegant ceremony surrounded by their closest loved ones, promising each other a lifetime of happiness, trust, and companionship. They arrived at the resort glowing with joy, hand in hand, their smiles unshakable as they were welcomed with champagne and warm greetings from the staff. Each moment seemed like a snapshot from a postcard, the sparkling turquoise waves, the golden hues of the setting sun, the sound of the gentle breeze rustling through the palm trees. They dined under the stars, whispered promises to each other in the moonlight, and planned the rest of their blissful future together. But even the most beautiful stories can carry secrets so deep that when they surface, they shatter everything in their path. Beneath the surface of this idyllic honeymoon, something unexpected was about to emerge. The serenity of the resort, the laughter of other honeymooners, the carefully laid plans, all of it would soon be eclipsed by a discovery that would lead to violence, betrayal, and heartbreak. The staff would later recount how they thought this couple seemed no different from the others. They were polite, affectionate, and eager to explore the luxurious surroundings. Yet, within the privacy of their secluded villa, a truth was uncovered. One that would lead to a crime so shocking it would leave everyone grasping for answers. The events of that fateful night were horrific. A husband, mutilated and poisoned, left lifeless in the place he once thought would be the setting of his most cherished memories. A wife, consumed by a storm of emotions that no one could have predicted. And at the center of it all, a revelation so personal, so intimate, that it raises the question, how well do we really know the people we trust with our hearts? As investigators pieced together the fragments of this devastating case, they uncovered a trail of clues and motives that would leave even the most seasoned detectives questioning how it all unraveled. What really happened in that villa on the edge of paradise? And what could drive someone to such a gruesome act? This is a story of love turned to tragedy, of trust broken beyond repair, and of a crime that no one could have foreseen. Before we dive deep into this gripping tale of love, betrayal, and vengeance, like and subscribe for more shocking stories that expose the darkest corners of human relationships. Lauren and Daniel were the kind of couple others envied, a whirlwind romance that seemed almost too perfect to be true. Lauren was a striking woman in her late 20s, a charismatic professional with a magnetic presence. Her friends often described her as passionate and deeply loyal, though her fiery personality sometimes made her quick to act on her emotions. Daniel, on the other hand, was her opposite in many ways, reserved yet charming, with a quiet confidence that drew people to him effortlessly. He was in his early 30s, well-read and cultured, though there was an air of mystery about him. The two had met at a charity gala just a year before, introduced by mutual friends who saw an instant spark between them. Their chemistry was undeniable, and within weeks, they were inseparable. Their relationship moved quickly, but it never felt rushed, at least not to Lauren, who had always believed in following her heart. When Daniel proposed during a romantic weekend getaway in Napa Valley, Lauren said yes without hesitation. Their wedding, held just a few months later, was a glamorous affair, a testament to their love and shared future. For their honeymoon, Daniel had planned a trip that seemed pulled straight out of a romance novel. The couple would spend 2 weeks at an exclusive, secluded resort on a private island. The destination was as luxurious as it was remote, a pristine paradise accessible only by private plane and boat. Their villa boasted an infinity pool overlooking the ocean, a private beach, and personal butler service. As they arrived, the island seemed to welcome them with open arms. The resort staff greeted them warmly, placing leis around their necks as champagne flutes were handed over. Lauren couldn't stop smiling, her fingers entwined with Daniel's as they marveled at the beauty around them. The villa was breathtaking, the kind of place dreams were made of. Candlelit dinners under the stars, couples massages by the ocean, and long walks on the beach filled their days. They appeared to be living in a world of their own, completely enamored with one another. Lauren would later recall these moments as some of the happiest of her life, his laughter echoing against the sound of the waves, the way he looked at her with such tenderness, the unspoken promises in their shared glances. Daniel, for his part, seemed equally invested, always attentive, always affectionate. But as idyllic as it all seemed, there were moments Lauren couldn't quite place. Small hesitations in Daniel's demeanor, a slight tension that surfaced now and then. He would sometimes grow quiet, lost in thought, or deflect questions about certain topics with vague answers. Lauren chalked it up to wedding stress or perhaps the weight of planning such an extravagant honeymoon. After all, wasn't everyone entitled to moments of introspection? The island itself added to the atmosphere, its serene beauty offering a sharp contrast to the storm brewing beneath the surface. The couple's villa was perched on the edge of the property, surrounded by dense tropical foliage that provided privacy, but also an eerie sense of isolation. At night, the sound of the waves crashing against the shore mixed with the rustling of leaves in the wind, creating a backdrop that felt both peaceful and unsettling. Unbeknownst to Lauren, the cracks in their perfect love story were beginning to show. What started as a trip of a lifetime was about to take a dark and irreversible turn. I do hope you have subscribed already, as it is about to get really interesting. The night of the crime began like any other on their honeymoon. Lauren and Daniel dined under a canopy of stars on the resort's private beach, their table adorned with glowing candles and fresh tropical flowers. They sipped wine, shared laughter, and reminisced about their wedding. Lauren, though smiling, had been consumed by a swirling mix of emotions all day. Earlier, she had stumbled upon something that shattered the image she held of her husband, something that left her questioning everything about their relationship. As the evening progressed, the tension in Lauren grew palpable, though Daniel seemed unaware of her inner turmoil. He suggested they retire early, a plan Lauren agreed to without hesitation. Back in their private villa, Daniel opened another bottle of wine, pouring 2 glasses and toasting to their future. Lauren, however, had a plan of her own. She had spent the hours before dinner preparing, her mind racing as she replayed the discovery over and over. She had found a hidden compartment in Daniel's travel bag while searching for sunscreen earlier that day. Inside were hormone replacement therapy medications and documents indicating Daniel was transgender, a part of his life he had never disclosed to her. The shock, confusion, and betrayal Lauren felt boiled into a silent fury. She couldn't comprehend why he had kept such a significant secret from her, especially as they built their life together. Lauren excused herself to the bathroom, where she added a substance, later identified as a potent poison she had secretly brought with her, into Daniel's glass of wine. She had brought it as a precaution for emergencies, never expecting to use it this way. With trembling hands, she rejoined him on the balcony, where the ocean breeze carried the scent of salt and jasmine. They toasted again, Lauren masking her emotions behind a forced smile. Daniel drank deeply from his glass, oblivious to the danger. Minutes later, he began to feel unwell, his movements sluggish, his breathing labored. He questioned what was happening, but Lauren remained silent, her face a mixture of anger and despair. As the poison took hold, Daniel collapsed onto the floor of the villa, his body racked with convulsions. But for Lauren, the act wasn't enough. The rage and betrayal she felt needed an outlet, and in that moment, she acted on impulse. Retrieving a sharp kitchen knife from the villa's kitchenette, she returned to Daniel, who was barely conscious. With precision fueled by emotion, Lauren performed the unthinkable. She severed his testicles in what police would later describe as a brutal act of mutilation. The details of this act, though difficult to fathom, spoke to the depth of her anger and the symbolic nature of her actions. It was as if she sought to erase the part of him she felt had deceived her, The part she believed was at the root of the lie she thought their relationship had been built upon. The villa, once a serene escape, had turned into a horrifying scene of violence. Lauren stood over Daniel's lifeless body, blood pooling around him on the marble floor. The sound of the waves outside continued uninterrupted, a stark contrast to the chaos within. For a moment, there was silence. Hours later, resort staff arrived at the villa, responding to what they thought was a routine concern, a missed breakfast reservation or a forgotten request. Instead, they were met with a scene of unimaginable horror. Lauren sat motionless in the corner of the room, her face pale and her hands stained with blood. She didn't resist as they called the authorities, nor did she speak when questioned. The staff described the eerie quiet of the villa, the metallic scent of blood mingling with the salt air, and the way Lauren stared blankly at the wall, as though disconnected from the events that had just transpired. Emergency responders arrived swiftly, but it was too late for Daniel. His body was pronounced dead at the scene, and Lauren was immediately taken into custody. In the days that followed, investigators worked to piece together what had led to this gruesome act. The truth about Daniel's transgender identity slowly emerged, revealing itself as a potential catalyst for Lauren's actions. But even as the facts came to light, questions remained. How long had Lauren known? Why did she react with such violence? And most hauntingly, could this tragedy have been avoided if honesty had prevailed? This horrific act would leave an indelible mark not only on the island resort, but also on the lives of everyone connected to this ill-fated couple. When authorities arrived at the scene, summoned by a frantic call from the resort staff, they were unprepared for the horror awaiting them. The villa that had been a honeymoon sanctuary now stood as the site of a gruesome tragedy. Lauren was found sitting on the floor, her knees pulled to her chest, blood staining her hands and clothes. She didn't resist when officers approached her. Her demeanor was eerily calm, her face expressionless as she was placed in handcuffs. The initial investigation began immediately. Crime scene investigators meticulously documented the villa, noting the overturned furniture, the blood-stained floor, and the broken glass on the balcony. The kitchen knife used in the attack was found near Daniel's body, along with the remnants of the poisoned wine in his glass. Investigators carefully collected every piece of evidence, knowing the gravity of the crime they were dealing with. Lauren was taken to the local police station for questioning, but her silence only deepened the mystery. She neither confessed nor denied the crime, offering little beyond her name and basic information. Officers noted her distant gaze and the occasional tremor in her hands, though she remained composed. Witness accounts began to paint a fuller picture of what might have transpired. Resort staff reported seeing the couple earlier that evening, dining on the beach. They described them as affectionate, with no visible signs of discord. However, one housekeeper mentioned hearing muffled arguing earlier that day, coming from the couple's villa. Another guest, staying in a neighboring villa, reported hearing what they described as a loud crash followed by silence sometime late at night. As the investigation deepened, the truth began to emerge. Detectives uncovered the items Lauren had discovered in Daniel's bag earlier that day, hormone replacement therapy medication, and legal documents indicating Daniel was transgender. These revelations, paired with Lauren's escalating anger, provided the first pieces of the puzzle. Investigators theorized that Lauren had confronted Daniel about his identity that evening, leading to an argument that spiraled out of control. The discovery of motive, however, required more than circumstantial evidence. Detectives needed to understand Lauren's state of mind. Psychological experts were brought in to assess her behavior. They noted that Lauren appeared detached, speaking about Daniel and their relationship in a way that seemed mechanical. When questioned about why she had committed such a violent act, Lauren reportedly broke her silence for the first time, saying, "He lied to me. He lied about who he was. How could I trust anything after that?" This statement became a focal point for investigators trying to understand whether Lauren's actions were premeditated or the result of a moment of blind rage. Her discovery of Daniel's transgender identity appeared to be the catalyst, but the methodical nature of the crime, poisoning him first before the mutilation, suggested a degree of planning. Key evidence further supported this theory. Surveillance footage from the resort showed Lauren visiting the villa's kitchenette multiple times during the day, where the poison was later found. A timeline of events began to form. Lauren discovered the medications that morning, confronted Daniel, and spent the day consumed by anger and betrayal. By the time dinner came, her plan was already in motion. Friends and family of both Lauren and Daniel were interviewed, providing contrasting perspectives. Daniel's friends described him as a private individual who had always been careful about disclosing his identity. They believed he had planned to tell Lauren eventually, but may have been fearful of a reaction. Lauren's friends, on the other hand, painted a picture of someone deeply passionate but also prone to emotional extremes. The psychological aspect of the case became a key focus. Experts debated whether Lauren's actions were a momentary lapse in judgment fueled by personal and societal pressures or a calculated response to feelings of betrayal. They noted that discovering such a deeply personal truth, especially during an emotionally charged time like a honeymoon, could have triggered a response rooted in rage and confusion. As the pieces fell into place, the narrative of what had happened became clearer, but it left more questions than answers. Could Daniel have trusted Lauren with his truth? Should he have? And what societal pressures might have contributed to Lauren's inability to process the revelation in a rational way? The investigation revealed not just the events of that fateful night, but also the layers of human emotion, secrecy, and the consequences of choices made in moments of vulnerability. The villa was no longer just a crime scene. It had become a symbol of the complexities of love, identity, and the devastating impact of betrayal. Dear valued family, don't forget to like and subscribe for more exciting content. This way, you'll stay updated and won't miss our next thrilling story, coming soon. Now let's continue. As investigators delved into Daniel's life, they uncovered a tapestry of choices shaped by fear, love, and a desire to live authentically. Born as Dana, Daniel had begun his transition several years prior. Friends described him as determined and optimistic, someone who embraced the challenges of his journey with quiet strength. Yet, the decision to keep his identity private, even from Lauren, became a central point of inquiry. According to Daniel's closest confidants, his secrecy stemmed from a combination of personal insecurity and fear of rejection. He deeply loved Lauren and had always intended to tell her the truth, but he struggled with how and when to share something so deeply personal. The honeymoon, however, was never part of his plan for disclosure. But a twist in the narrative emerged. Text messages retrieved from Lauren's phone suggested she might have suspected something before the trip. A series of cryptic exchanges with a close friend revealed her frustration over what she called Daniel's evasiveness about certain topics. One message, sent days before their wedding, read, "Is hiding something, I know it. I just can't figure out what." This revelation raised new questions. Was Lauren already suspicious when they boarded the plane for their honeymoon? If so, was her discovery of the hormone replacement therapy the final confirmation of her fears, or an entirely new revelation that blindsided her? Adding complexity to the case were the dynamics of their relationship. Investigators interviewed mutual friends who painted a picture of a couple deeply in love but not without their tensions. Daniel was described as reserved, someone who avoided conflict and often deflected personal questions. Lauren, in contrast, was known for her fiery temper and her need for transparency in relationships. Friends hinted at arguments over trust and honesty in the months leading up to their wedding, though none could have predicted the events that would follow. Further evidence from their villa offered more insight into Lauren's mindset. Among her belongings, detectives found a journal where she had written extensively about her love for Daniel. Yet, the later entries shifted in tone, reflecting a sense of unease and suspicion. One chilling entry read, "If he's not who he says he is, I don't know what I'll do." This entry, dated weeks before the wedding, suggested that Lauren's discovery on the honeymoon may not have been entirely shocking. The question now was whether her actions were premeditated or an impulsive reaction to the confirmation of her fears. As more details emerged, so did surprising elements of their dynamic. Witnesses recalled Lauren's occasional offhand comments about Daniel being too private or always holding something back. Though seemingly innocuous at the time, these remarks hinted at an undercurrent of tension that might have played a role in the tragedy. Despite the evidence, many unanswered questions lingered. Did Lauren plan the crime in advance, bringing the poison with her in anticipation of discovering the truth? Or did she act in a moment of blind rage, unable to process the revelation of Daniel's identity? Could Daniel have handled the disclosure differently, and would it have changed the outcome? One particularly haunting detail emerged during the investigation. Daniel had written a letter to Lauren, intended to explain his past and his journey. Investigators found the letter in the bottom of his suitcase, sealed but undelivered. In it, Daniel had written, "You've made me feel whole in a way I never thought possible. I hope one day you'll see all of me and still love me." This poignant letter underscored the tragedy of the case, highlighting the fragile balance between love, trust, and identity. It also raised deeper societal questions about acceptance, honesty, and the consequences of secrets kept too long. The case left everyone involved grappling with its complexity. Was Lauren a victim of betrayal, or had she allowed her anger and prejudice to lead her to violence? Was Daniel's secrecy a protective shield, or a fundamental breach of trust? These lingering questions ensured that the story remained both a cautionary tale and a deeply human tragedy. The trial of Lauren Anderson captivated the nation, dominating headlines and sparking debates that extended far beyond the courtroom. Prosecutors painted a grim picture of premeditation, pointing to the poison found in Daniel's wine, the deliberate nature of the mutilation, and journal entries suggesting Lauren had harbored suspicions for weeks. They argued that Lauren had acted out of a calculated sense of betrayal, unable to accept the truth about Daniel's identity. The defense, however, presented a starkly different narrative. They claimed Lauren's actions were not premeditated but a result of extreme emotional distress triggered by a deeply personal revelation during an already heightened emotional time. Her lawyer argued that Daniel's secrecy, while understandable, had left Lauren feeling deceived and unmoored, leading to a moment of irrational violence. Witness testimonies further polarized the courtroom. Resort staff described Lauren's erratic behavior leading up to the crime, while friends and family testified to her fiery personality and struggles with control. On the other hand, Daniel's friends shared his fears of rejection and his belief that Lauren could one day accept him completely. The emotional weight of the testimony was palpable, leaving the jury to navigate a case fraught with moral and societal complexities. The media added another layer of intensity, with commentators dissecting the case from every angle. Some portrayed Lauren as a victim of her emotions, while others condemned her actions as the ultimate act of prejudice and violence. Advocacy groups weighed in, with some highlighting the dangers faced by transgender individuals in intimate relationships, while others debated the ethics of secrecy and disclosure. After weeks of testimony and deliberation, the jury delivered its verdict. Lauren was found guilty of second-degree murder, with the court rejecting the argument of premeditation but acknowledging the severity of her actions. She was sentenced to 25 years in prison, with eligibility for parole after 15 years. The public reaction was deeply divided. Some felt the sentence was too lenient, arguing that the violent nature of the crime warranted harsher punishment. Others viewed it as a reflection of the emotional turmoil Lauren experienced and the complex circumstances surrounding the case. The trial's conclusion, however, did little to quell the broader societal debates it had ignited. This case became a flashpoint for conversations about trust, honesty, and identity in relationships. It highlighted the delicate balance between personal privacy and transparency, as well as the challenges faced by transgender individuals navigating love and acceptance in a world still grappling with understanding and prejudice. The haunting details of Lauren and Daniel's story serve as a tragic reminder of what can happen when love, identity, and secrecy collide in explosive ways. It leaves us with difficult but necessary questions. How much of ourselves should we reveal to those we love? And how do we navigate the emotions that arise when confronted with truths we're unprepared to face? As Lauren began her sentence and Daniel's family sought to heal, their story remained a cautionary tale, one that underscored the human cost of secrecy and the importance of compassion in the face of difficult truths. As we reflect on this tragic story, we're reminded of the devastating consequences that can arise from secrets, misunderstandings, and unprocessed emotions. What do you think? Was this crime an act of passion, a moment of impulsive rage, or something more sinister, born from deeper issues of trust and identity? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this complex case. Was Lauren justified in her emotional distress, or did her actions cross an unforgivable line? Do you think this tragedy could have been prevented if the truth about Daniel had been revealed earlier? Drop your thoughts and theories in the comments below. If you're interested in more true crime stories that explore the complexities of love, trust, and betrayal, be sure to check out our other videos. And if you enjoyed today's story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with others who might be just as fascinated by these real-life mysteries. Your support helps us continue bringing you gripping content. Have a great week and stay safe out there.